This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com with my mascot Piper and John Paz, who you're all very familiar with through his various podcasts. And he's also one of the producers of Rick Bassman's Talking Tough podcast that airs on here with Butterbean and Boss Rutan and a revolving door of other hosts and guests. But you watched WrestleMania 38 both nights. 4 hours last night. I reviewed the results because I was out. I didn't see it tonight. I didn't feel like paying for it. I don't have the network, so you're kind enough to let us know what happened. I understand. One thing I will bring up though that I find strange, and I guess this is because they don't really sell pay-per-views anymore, so maybe they just don't care. But Austin wrestled last night without being advertised, and McMahon wrestled tonight. And you would think that they would have wanted to advertise that, make people want to watch, because those were two very intriguing things to me.
Very weird that they didn't advertise that, because with Austin, even friends of mine were saying, had they advertised that, they probably would have bought tickets and they probably would have flew down to Dallas. I was even like somewhat interested if Austin was going to wrestle to have his last match, like of going to the show. So I think that was a little bit of a misstep of them, but I think Austin was making that final call. I don't think it was supposed to be a match all the way through. I think maybe depending on how he felt, it was one of those things with Austin where you just don't know. And maybe it was his call, not WWF's call, because I'm sure, or WWE's call, because I'm sure they would have wanted to promote it. But with Austin, I feel like it was his call ultimately, and he, like the day of, he probably said, let's do a match, I'm feeling it, I could do it. Or maybe he wanted to temper expectations where everyone's saying, oh, it's a match, it's a match, it's a match. This way, if he says it's a fight sequence, it could be a match, it's going to be a brawl, it doesn't get people's expectations up and they're not as excited. So to me, maybe that could play a part in it. But I always kind of thought like, okay, this is Austin's call if he wants us to have a match or not have a match. And that's what they did. It just seemed like it was his call. He wanted to have the match, and he went forward with it. But I was thinking the same thing. Man, they probably could have sold more tickets if they advertised Austin.
Yeah, and like I would have been more inclined to find a way to watch it.
Yeah.
And then he appeared tonight too. I'll let you say it. Maybe to start with, who's the undisputed champion, since that was the big match tonight?
Roman Reigns retained. He's in God mode as he defeated Brock Lesnar via the spear. I think it was 3 or 4 spears that finished him off finally, but good match. Crowd was really hot. Crowd was really into it. They had a really good hype video with Metallica's All Nightmare Long. So I thought that was cool. Kind of got you pumped, got you excited. The crowd was super into Reigns. Which is interesting, before the match actually started, he actually got on the mic, which you don't really see before a main event with one of the the main event contenders or one of the guys that are wrestling. Got on the mic, said, "WrestleMania, acknowledge me." So it's a little bit different, but it just shows you the level of star that he is. They try to do some different things with him. Pretty good match with Lesnar, a little bit of back and forth. They teased that Roman Reigns injured his arm when he had him in the Kimura. It just was like one of those things where you knew he was going to not tap out, and you thought Reigns was going to win. You could say it's predictable that he was going to win, but the way that they booked it and the way that it was done, it was kind of, it was well done. I thought I liked the main event a lot. Very hard hitting. It looked like Reigns did injure his shoulder, but after the match, he was able to raise up both titles as he's the undisputed champion. So I don't think he was injured. I think he was just selling, but he did a really good job of selling, especially after the Kimura. But then he gets out of the Kimura. Lesnar turns around, another spear. I think it was either third or fourth spear, and Roman Reigns is your new Universal Champion, I guess. Well, not Universal, but Unified Universal and WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Well deserved from Roman Reigns. He's in God mode, as they said.
Yes, and I have nothing against Roman Reigns. He's definitely not reached the level of the John Cena's, who didn't come close to reaching the level of Austin's, although he's had a lot of success for sure.
But Reigns has been in more WrestleMania main events than Cena, though.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh, but I mean, as far as like mainstream popularity.
Oh yeah,
If you're walking on the street, I don't think my parents would know who Roman Reigns is, for instance, but they know John Cena.
Not yet, yeah.
But he is getting over more, and he probably has at least 5 more years left in him, so you never know.
And it's funny, though, when Vince McMahon for years was trying to push Roman Reigns down everybody's throat, everyone's like, he's not the guy. He's not the guy. Stop pushing him down the throat. He was getting booed, and Lesnar wrestled him, WrestleMania 31. obviously Rollins comes in, cashes in the briefcase, and then Rollins wins the title. Lesnar's not even a factor in the finish, and Reigns takes the pin. WrestleMania 33 comes around. WrestleMania 34 comes around. They wrestle again. Lesnar beats Reigns there too, and everybody kind of cemented. I mean, it was only 4 years ago, but they were cementing he's still not the guy. Lesnar's the man. And then now this year, I think he fully cemented himself as the guy, the man. I know he's been champion for 581 days now, but to me, this cemented it. He beat Lesnar. He beat the old guard. He's finally beaten all these guys one by one by one, and now he is the man. And now it kind of proves Vince right. Vince was right all along. Reigns is the guy, I think.
And they finally got rid of the two world champions, which was very confusing.
I never liked that. It just, to me, it's like, why do you need the two champions, the two belts? I understand you're trying to build up SmackDown and you're trying to build up Raw, but it should be one world champion. I'm not a big fan of having two. Hopefully they keep it unified, because I have a feeling that, they'll change their mind again like they always do, like the last time. Oh, let's have a tournament. Let's crown a new champion instead of having unified champ. I just hope they keep it that way, because it makes the title and being the world champion more prestigious. And I think it's great on Reigns. And now Reigns, if you look at it, he's got a bunch of babyface challengers, so he could be champ for a long time. He's got a few with Lashley he could have, because Lashley rightfully never lost the title. He could have a few with Drew McIntyre, who's a big-time babyface, former world champion, kind of never got his just due as champion because he was champion during the pandemic era. And then you got Cody Rhodes. You could have a Cody Rhodes versus him title run too. So I think Reigns is going to be champion for a long time. Hopefully keep it the unified champion for a long time. He's got quite a slew of baby faces to run through. And then when he's through with those guys, have it Braun Breaker coming out. And then next WrestleMania, the rumor is him versus The Rock in Hollywood. So Reigns has got a long title run ahead of him. And he already has 581 days behind him.
Wow, you definitely know all the facts. And of course, we were talking about Vince wrestling Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
How did that come about for the people that don't know? I read the results as it was going on a little bit, so I know a little bit about what was happening.
So what happens is Austin Theory loses to Pat McAfee. The crowd was loving McAfee. They got that Seven Nations Army song. They did, they bought it or whatever. They licensed it for the show. So, I mean, that was pretty cool. The crowd was really into that. He had the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders out. I was surprised. I mean, McAfee, I've seen him wrestle Adam Cole before. And to be honest, I thought he looked better in that match against Adam Cole than Adam Cole did. I think Cole's a bit overrated, but that's a different story for a different day. McAfee looked great in this match against Austin Theory. The crowd just added to it because they were so into it. What a great athlete he is. He showed before the match. He punted a nice Dallas Cowboys football out into the audience. He shows he could still be a good punter if need be. So after McAfee beats Austin Theory, he beat him by roll-up. He challenges Vince, and Vince obviously is out there because he's Austin Theory's boy. That's his protege. Vince is now Austin Theory's mentor. So McAfee says, come on in the ring. I challenge you. And Vince says, first. He goes, nah, takes off the jacket, puts it back on. He goes, nah, I'm not doing it. And then McAfee goes, come on, punk. So then Vince goes, all right, I'll do it. Takes off the jacket, takes off the tie. And of course, he's got the patented black tank top underneath. And then he says to Pat McAfee, he's accepting the challenge. Come on, you punk. Austin Theory nails him from behind. A few other times in the match, Austin Theory cheated and really helped Vince cement the victory. Vince wins via punt. He took a football and punted it into Pat McAfee and got the pin. But Austin Theory helped him win throughout the match and really cheated for Vince to win. But the thing was, really, Vince is just, I know he's 76 years old, but he was always a terrible athlete. The way he moves around, his clotheslines are terrible. He's awful. And we'll get into what happened post-match too. But Vince is so bad, but in a way, who cares? He's Vince McMahon. He's a god. He's so great. But the whole thing really was predicated because the Netflix cameras are there and he's got his big documentary, the McMahon documentary. I don't know if it's a 10-part series like The Last Dance with Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls or what it is, but he's got some sort of Netflix series. I know WWE's behind it, and they needed kind of, not an ending, so to speak, but they needed like a big moment in it and kind of a big, like, wow, this is WrestleMania. What did Vince do on WrestleMania? So that's really why he had the match, because they're filming this thing for Netflix.
And as you were saying, something happened after Austin appeared and delivered a bunch of stunners. You want to let us know? I heard the one to Vince was not exactly the most impressive.
No. So Vince, and I always say this, and I used to go to all the shows, and we would go to house shows, me and my buddy, and he would give stunners to certain guys, and we'd always watch it and be like, wow. And Vince would even come out during some of the house shows and get stunners and stuff and be like, wow, Vince takes the worst stunner ever. If you remember that 1997 MSG Raw where he took a stunner, one of the worst ever. This stunner tonight that Austin gave to him, he made the surprise appearance. The crowd was nuts for Austin. They loved it. When you have McMahon out there healing like crazy, you got to have Austin. It's the natural progression. Probably the greatest feud of all time. Austin McMahon. He comes out, he stunners McMahon, and McMahon literally was like, even from the kick in the stomach, he was so goofy and unathletic and weird. Austin like almost couldn't get him for the stunner, and then finally got him. And it was such a bad stunner. Austin was dying laughing. It was so bad. Like he even kind of broke character, and he was like, God, that was awful. But even before that, he nailed Austin Theory with an awesome stunner. It was very, if anybody watches like who takes a good stunner in history, Scott Hall took a great one. Shane McMahon took a great one, maybe the best, and The Rock maybe took the best. So those three are the best guys at taking a stunner. Austin Theory took a Scott Hall like bump when he flew up off the stunner. And then afterwards, then he hit Vince with the stunner, which was arguably the worst stunner I've ever seen in my life. Austin died laughing about it. He understood, like, okay, Vince is awful at taking this. Whatever, I'm just going to go with it. He invites Pat McAfee back into the ring. They have beers. They're partying. They're doing the fist bumps with the beer. They're all drinking. Then all of a sudden, McAfee turns around. Austin gives him the stunner too. And McAfee did a great selling job where he actually had like beer coming out of his mouth as he was taking the stunner. So he took it a little bit differently, but McAfee took it great. Theory took it great. Vince maybe took it the worst I've ever seen in my life.
Very interesting. I'm gonna have to look that up. I don't know if that will be Austin's last match, though. By the way,
I don't think so.
I think they'll fly now that he can show that he can still get in there a bit. They'll make him an offer he can't refuse because they're running out of stars that will actually get people's attention.
I'm thinking, to be honest, like he's got the bug. It seems like right now, 2 nights in a row, he's getting the biggest pop of the night. He's loving it. He's loving life. He's pumping up his American lager, his new beer that just came out. He's got that to promote. I feel like Reigns Austin is that match. Reigns is safe. Reigns is not going to injure him. They could have a nice brawl. They could have a good match. I feel like on a poster or a SummerSlam. I know it's not going to be WrestleMania next year because I think in stone, I think it's Rock versus Reigns in the main event, and it's Hollywood, and that just makes sense. But maybe even SummerSlam, Austin versus Reigns, because you're trying to have it a big show, and I think they're in a stadium again next year for SummerSlam. So to me, if you're going to make it a big thing, Reigns is the perfect opponent for Austin because he's going to be safe. He's not going to injure him. And I think this is the time for Austin maybe to take the loss. So it would be kind of perfect and would fit in. I know some people might not like that. And you might want Austin to get the win. And him beating up Kevin Owens for 14 minutes is great and all. But I do think Austin versus Reigns is the money match people are looking for. And I think Austin could do it. I thought he looked great last night.
And how was Johnny Knoxville in there against Sami Zayn? I was surprised to read in the results it was like 14 minutes long.
Yeah. So to me, to be honest, perfect match because it's like your WWE match. You know that Knoxville can't wrestle. You know Zayn is a great worker, superior guy. He can pretty much carry anybody. He's got to carry this actor, stunt guy, whatever you want to call it, this crazy man, Knoxville. But I think Knoxville did great. The crowd was super into him. I mean, everything they did, the whole Jackass crew came out and interfered. They were really into them. Wee Man came out from under the ring. I think that might have got the biggest pop of that match. He actually scoop slammed Sami Zayn to a huge pop. He actually held him up for a second too, and then he slammed him. They used tables with mouse traps. They used a bowling ball. They used that little kick thing where you hit the button and the lever kicks you and it kicks you right in the nuts. I mean, they used every trick in the book. They used another table where Knoxville went through it. They did that huge slap hand where it comes off and it nailed Sami Zayn. They used a gigantic mousetrap where it comes and it almost went awry. But this is Knoxville and his smartness or his greatness here. He knew how to work the big mousetrap thing when it wasn't working. Like you're supposed to pull the lever and it's supposed to go. It wasn't working. He knew you got to knock the thing off and boom, it slammed shut. So that's how he beat Sami Zayn. All the guys from Jackass cheated. He used the mousetrap and held his shoulders down with the mousetrap and laid on top of him for the pin. But the great, excuse me, great match to me. Exactly what you want. You could say it's sports entertainment entertainment, very entertaining, not this great wrestling match. But I thought it was really, really fun. And if you want a WrestleMania fun moment with the celebrity where the crowd is super into it, I know. I liked that. I thought it was really good. And Knoxville did a great job. Took a lot of crazy bumps. And obviously Zayn did too. But to me, they knocked it out of the park with that match because if the crowd is loving it and the crowd is into it, you can't fault it. You can't say it sucked. And I know some people online were like, oh, it was a terrible match. But I think it was great. And it was sports entertainment, WWE style WrestleMania at its finest, especially using a big celebrity like Johnny Knoxville.
I heard the Lashley versus Omos, or however you pronounce it, that was bad. Was it
That
as bad as they wrote?
Nah, I honestly don't think it was as bad as they wrote. To be honest, Omos, he's not that, he's green as hell. He's not that good. He doesn't have a lot to his arsenal. You know what that match was for. To me, not as bad as people said. I know they were trying to pump it up, and I know Lashley kind of, I guess, almost didn't turn around. So Lashley had kind of spear him in his back, and then when he stood back up, then he speared him again. But I thought it was fine. It is what it was. You knew what it was. It was just a showcase match to get Lashley as a babyface and back in the winning column and probably back into the fold where he might feud with Reigns or back in the fold where he's back in the main event scene. It was literally good for what it was to me. It wasn't a great match, wasn't anything else, but Lashley suplexed him. He showed his test of strength and he showed that he could beat this big 7 foot, 400-pound monster. Definitely not as bad as people were saying it was online. I think people were taking a little too much. Like it is what it is out there with Omos. You're not going to have this classic. It's not, Undertaker, Kurt Angle out there. You know what I mean? It's not going to be a classic. So to me, it was fine. It was, it is what it is, really.
And of course, AJ Styles, who I once pinned twice in one night,
That's
lost
true.
to another Canadian, Edge, and I saw they went almost 25 minutes. How was that one?
That was a pretty good match. To me, it wasn't great, though. The crowd at times wasn't as into it. To me, the only thing that kind of killed it was the finish. Just because like Damian Priest interfered. I know what they're going with here. Edge is the heel, and Priest is going to be with Edge going forward, and they're going to have this faction together. But I don't know. I kind of wanted it to be straight up, but it makes sense. I guess you kind of save AJ a little bit and make him look strong, like he got distracted, and then he got speared as he was going for the bionic elbow, if you will, the flying elbow. And then Edge speared him, and as they were coming down, it was a good spot. But to me, I was like, oh, I thought it might be a straight up finish. I understand they protected AJ and wasn't. It was a good match. I don't know. For some reason, I kind of expected a little bit more, maybe. But it was one of those things where it was good, not great. Like Cody versus Seth Rollins from the night before, I thought was great. This was just good, which is not bad at all. And it went 25 minutes. But to me, it just didn't reach that level of Cody and Seth.
And Sasha Banks and Naomi won a fatal four-way women's tag team match to capture the gold, I guess.
Yep. Not that big into women's wrestling in general, but Sasha Banks, she always impresses me. Very athletic. She's one of the girls that it's funny, like you watch and like some of the girls are not that good or not that crisp or, they don't know what they're doing. She always impresses me. Like she's super crisp. You could tell she was kind of the ring general in the match. I know Natalia's in there too. They're kind of, but Zelina and Carmella aren't that great. Liv is, kind of coming up and, Baszler's okay and Naomi's okay, but you could tell Sasha was really the ring general there. Them winning, I guess, was predictable, but it was good. It was entertaining. The crowd was into it. They had a couple spots in the match that the crowd was really into. It was weird with Rhea Ripley though. Like they had her do some spots where she really had to sell for some the smaller girls. So that was, I don't know, that to me that was a little weird because she's I think 5'11", something like that. They don't treat her like, or maybe she doesn't. I don't know. It's weird. She doesn't sell like she's 5'11". It's almost like she sells like she's much shorter. To me, I would keep her a little stronger and whoever's in the back or agent, whoever, I would kind of push her along and say, hey, use your size to your advantage. Maybe not sell for Zelina Vega as much. She's little, I think 4'11" or 5 foot tall. You're literally a foot taller than her. Don't sell as much. But the finish was a pretty good finish. I guess they got this new tag team maneuver. It was kind of like almost like a slam into a code breaker. So pretty good finish from Sasha and Naomi. Even though it was predictable, the crowd loved it. The crowd was into it. And Sasha Banks, hey, finally gets a win at WrestleMania. I think she was like 0-5 or something before that, or 0-6. So it's surprising she never won at Mania before. She finally got her win, and it's good to see that she wins a tag title. They're doing something with her. But to me, she was the ring general of the match. She's the most crisp woman, I think, in there for sure. Not bad. Not too bad at all.
Yes, and she's one of the most beautiful women wrestlers out
Well, that
there, in
doesn't
my
help.
opinion.
That doesn't hurt either. No, that doesn't
And
hurt. Yeah.
I think finally Randy Orton and Riddle retained the Raw Tag Team titles in a three-way match.
I always like the fun openers. Like, there's always some good matches, like Eddie Ray, WrestleMania 21, Bret Owen, WrestleMania 10. I'm not saying this was nearly as good as those matches, but I like the fun openers where the crowd is really into it. They're really positive. This Randy Orton character, he always is over for like the last 20 years. He knows what he's doing. He can get the crowd into it. There was a bunch of spots in there which were designed as high spots to really, really pump up the crowd. I mean, Gable had a couple of them. Montez Ford really showed their athleticism. Matt Riddle did an awesome diamond cutter off the top, or whatever, RKO off the top onto Montez Ford. And then the finish was great because Gable was going for a headbutt off the top, and then, or a flying headbutt off the top. And then Orton really came out of nowhere and hit him with the RKO. So good finish, good match, hot opener. Crowd loved it. They were really into it. And then after the match, Street Profits came out. They were teasing that they were going to do a little red solo cup, I guess, cheers with Orton and Riddle to do a little, celebration. Gable comes in, he interferes it. Gable Steveson comes in the ring, beats up Chad Gable, throws him over his head, and they kind of go to the next thing. I guess they're really trying to pump up Gable Steveson, who's obviously an Olympic gold medalist and the greatest heavyweight in NCAA wrestling history. That was kind of the big point, I guess, the big selling point of after the match. But Orton and Riddle got a big victory in a hot match with a hot crowd to start the show, which I thought was good, very good.
How was the crowd reaction to Gable? Because I know he won a big tournament in Texas last year, and he's had so much publicity.
They seem like they were into him, but to me, and it's going to take some time, and it'll take a while because it took Kurt Angle some time too. He kind of, I don't know, he didn't exhibit as much charisma and personality as you would think of a guy that they were introducing for 2 nights in a row. You know what I mean? Like, if the guy's going to come out 2 nights in a row, you think he's like this big grandiose character, and Gable Steveson. I know he's an Olympic gold medalist, but I think personality and character is one thing he's lacking right now, and that's one thing he's going to have to work on. But I do think the crowd was pretty liking him though. Like, he got a good pop when he beat up Chad Gable for sure. I do think that the crowd was into him.
The other thing about him too, he doesn't have like that aura that Brock Lesnar has, even though he was a more successful amateur than Brock.
Yep.
Brock is like a more imposing figure, and I guess you could say scarier figure than Gable.
Gable Stevenson's not I mean, not that big. I mean, he's a heavyweight. He's like 240, 245,
Yeah.
whatever he is, but he's not Lesnar. I mean, Lesnar has to cut weight to make 265. I mean, Lesnar is an animal. He's a beast. But to me, he'll probably get there. He's not as shredded either. He's kind of, but I
Yeah.
think he can get there. But just size wise, and Lesnar just has that natural like charisma, that natural ability. Like, you just look at him, you're like, this guy is impressive. Stevenson can get there, but he's like kind of like almost like that Kurt Angle mode where you have to see him in action before you start getting like falling in love with him. Lesnar's one of the guys like Alex Luger. You see him walking down the street, you're like, holy shit, who the hell is this guy? Like, he's impressive. Gable Stevenson, not that physically impressive, even though his credentials are amazing.
Without a doubt. And of course, Triple H opened the show by having somewhat of an unofficial retirement ceremony, I hear.
Yeah, that was interesting. I was kind of surprised that they did that with Triple H. I guess it was good, nice send off. To me, I don't know. I was never a big Triple H guy. It's funny, like, you're reading all these comments, like all this great stuff about him. It's like, would he really have been anything if he wasn't married to Stephanie? He was kind of in that role, like he was the guy working with the guys. He worked with Steve Austin. He worked with The Rock. He had the opportunity to work with Undertaker and Foley, all guys that are above him, more popular than him, better wrestler than him. And he was kind of there and lucky. And then Shawn Michaels comes back, and he's very lucky to work with Michaels. So to me, he is a legend, and he was good, but he's not great. Like people have said, and it's funny, he said about Daniel Bryan, but I know Meltzer had said it about him in the past, and that's kind of where he got it from. But to me, always was a B-plus player. And I know he got a big pop, and they made a big deal about him retiring, and he left his boots in the ring, and he walked away. And obviously, he's got the heart thing. He can't wrestle again. But to me, not on that level. I know he'll be in the Hall of Fame next year. He's going to be the lead inductee and all this other stuff. He's not on the level of an Undertaker, an Austin, definitely not an Austin, a Rock, a Cena, a Lesnar. He's not on that level. He's the level below, and he's fine. He's good. If you have him in there with a good wrestler, he can definitely have a good match. He's not really after his quad injury. He wasn't really able to carry guys as much as he did before. He was a much better worker before that. He kind of had to change his style a bit. He was much slower. He had some of the worst WrestleMania matches I've ever seen. So to me, his legacy and stuff always gets blurred by he was very political, was a pretty good worker, but he's a guy that was so lucky he was in an era that he was working with the guys that he was working with. So to me, a very, very WWE manufactured star. And if he wasn't Vince McMahon's son-in-law, don't know if he'd be able to be out there in the ring, putting his boots in the ring. And I know all the NXT kids love him because he completely changed. And I love his viewpoint on wrestling. And I love his philosophy on wrestling and his viewpoints. But in the ring, you have to be honest. And I hate this when people aren't honest online and on Twitter and stuff. You have to be honest. He was a B-plus player. And that if Jeff Jarrett got that push instead of him, we wouldn't even be talking about him. Like Austin didn't want to work with Jarrett. He said he would work with Triple H. And the story continues. Jarrett is just as good as Triple H without the push and without all this political nonsense. So if he wasn't married to Stephanie, who knows where he would be? I know he's buddies with Michaels and all this other stuff, but he was very, very lucky to be in the era and the spot he was in.
He is possibly the greatest politician of all time.
I was actually thinking about that, like to be able to kind of come out and do that and be out there in front of the crowd and say, welcome people to WrestleMania and leave your boots in the ring. I was like, man, I was like, this guy, he out-politicaled almost everybody. And it's funny, in his career, it's like, man, who can he kind of step over and bury and move on to the next guy and out-politic? And it seems like now, after the Hart thing, it seems like Michaels, who took over NXT, maybe out-politicked him. And remember when he fought Hogan in 2002 and Hogan beat him for the title? It's like, wow, he couldn't out-politic Hogan. But he always stayed in the limelight and kept in the main event and kept getting big matches after big matches. And when you marry the boss's daughter, and obviously, you're Vince's son-in-law, you're going to be able to be the best politician. And I feel like he may be the greatest politician of all time, which says a lot. I mean, that's great too, because you have to be a politician. You have to be great backstage. But I think that might be his claim to fame. B-plus player, but A-plus politician.
Yeah, and I'm not the greatest politician of all time. I'm one of the worst.
Yeah.
We don't have to go through night one, but obviously Cody Rhodes was a big highlight.
Yep.
Seeing Austin back in the ring. Anything else that's noteworthy that stood out to you?
So Cody, definitely the fact that he got his entrance, he was able to keep that, keep his theme music, which was Kingdom by Downstate. He was able to pretty much keep his whole look, the jacket. He's the American Nightmare, his logo. I thought that was great. That was cool. And then be able to have a 25-minute classic with Seth Rollins was absolutely great. The other thing that really stood out besides Steve Austin, Logan Paul. Man, this guy should be a pro wrestler. What a heel. What an athlete. He impressed me. Man, he did some stuff in the ring. I was like, man, it's just amazing. Even the way he was looking at the camera, like a lot of the guys have a problem kind of fighting the camera, especially when you're not like used to wrestling all the time. Guys in AEW still have a lot of problem finding the hard camera and finding some of the cameras and know where to be and know where to look and know the placement. This guy is a freaking natural. Plus, he looks great. I know he's like 6'2". He's probably like 210 pounds, whatever he is. He just looks great. He had that perfect look. He did this one thing where he turned around, looked at the camera, had this cocky ass look, and he got booed out of the building. I was like, man, that is perfect heel. You can't teach that stuff. He's just a natural, perfect heel. He really, really impressed me. And I just hope they're keeping him because it seems like they're doing something with him in the Miz, and maybe that'll be a big match that they're going to pump up for maybe SummerSlam, or hell, maybe they, you have him come back for WrestleMania next year. But Logan Paul really impressed me, man. If you go back and watch him, what a great heel. He was phenomenal. And then of course Steve Austin was great. I didn't think it was going to be a match because it wasn't promoted. And man, he knocked it out of the park. I loved that. I went back and watched it again just because I wanted to see without my rose-colored glasses as such a Steve Austin fan, such a Steve Austin mark. But man, I loved it. 57 years old, still doing that, still taking bumps, a bunch of suplexes to the floor, a bunch of suplexes on the ramp. Crazy stuff from Austin. Great stunner. I love not only the first stunner to Owens, but the second one was great. And then the stunner to Byron Saxton was great. And Byron sold it great too. So Austin was great. Cody was great. And Logan Paul was great. Those are like the kind of three guys that really stood out to me. And it's a shame that Rick Boogs got hurt because he's a physical freak. He's one of the strongest guys I've seen. And I feel like they would have had a great match. And they were kind of progressing into what could have been a great match, but that injury killed it.
But isn't it kind of sad the way wrestling is right now that Austin from the 90s has to reignite WrestleMania? Could you imagine the Attitude Era if like stars from the 60s came in and main
Imagine
events in
Bruno.
WrestleMania.
Yeah, imagine Bruno came in WrestleMania main event of WrestleMania. It'd be crazy. It is crazy. Maybe it's the state of the business. Like who was impressive and who was really good at Mania? Obviously, Cody Rhodes. He's been in the business forever. He knows what he's doing. Seth Rollins is a veteran, knows what he's doing. You bring in Austin. Vince McMahon is wrestling having a big part. Pat McAfee is a celebrity. Johnny Knoxville is a celebrity. Logan Paul is a celebrity. Those guys stood out the most. It's crazy. And I know they're showcasing them and they're supposed to, but I can't even imagine like 57-year-old Steve Austin has come back and headline WrestleMania and steal the show from these younger guys. So to me, it's nuts. You bring in Cody Rhodes, who hasn't been there in 6 years. You take him from AEW, he's a star there. Logan Paul, you take him from YouTube and boxing, and he's a star. Knoxville from Jackass, Pat McAfee from football and announcing and Sirius XM and his podcast, and he's dominant. And then you got the two kings of the Attitude Era, Vince and Austin, and they're like the two main parts of the show, night one and night two. Just so funny how that works out. And it's almost like, I know Reigns is a god. He's in God mode. He's definitely main eventer. Lesnar's great too. But it's funny that those old guys are being relied on maybe too much.
Maybe this is the future since they can't make their own stars as much. They'll take guys like Knoxville and McAfee
Yeah.
and all these other celebrities and throw them in there. What did you think about that Ronda Rousey controversy that supposedly she later denied it, but she didn't attend the Hall of Fame, supposedly because she was mad she wasn't in the final match. But really, Ronda Rousey, even at the height of her popularity, was nowhere near the star that Steve Austin was at the height of his popularity.
No, I know she had a bunch of good buy rates and a bunch of UFC pay-per-views, and she made a big name for herself. And she's in the Expendables, and she's in the Entourage, and all these other movies and TV shows. But come on, it's Steve Austin, and I did hear that she did leave the Hall of Fame, or she was upset. I saw she denied it, and then I saw one dirt sheet said that she did, and that was true, and another dirt sheet say that it wasn't true. So who knows what to believe or anything like that. Obviously, she could say she's got the baby, she had to go home. She could make any excuse up in the world, but if that is true, that's kind of being like a little bit of a malcontent there, like she's upset. Well, if you were as big of a star as Steve Austin, who wasn't maybe wrestling at first, so maybe it's just a KO show. As soon as Vince hears Austin's wrestling, there's no way you're following that. And it would have been hilarious to see how many people would have left knowing that Rousey Charlotte was up next. Half the audience probably would have left after Austin had his beer bash. You know what I mean? They would have just left the building. Austin wrestled, all this other stuff. I would have left. I mean, WrestleMania 18, remember Hogan and Rock?
I was just going to say that. It would have been just like that.
Yep. So they're pretty foolish if that is true about Rousey to think that, oh yeah, we can main event and Austin's going to go on before it. Yeah, good luck with that. He's a way bigger star, getting a way bigger pop. He's a god of wrestling. He's on the Mount Rushmore. He's going to have his beer bash. The crowd's going to be super into it. There's no way Rousey's following that. Maybe as a lesson. They should have taught her that so half the crowd can leave like WrestleMania 18 after Hogan Rock wasn't the main event. And I know Triple H and Jericho felt that the hard way, but that's 100% true. That match was not that great, but Hogan Rock was awesome. To me, 5 stars, knocked it out of the park and should have been the main event. So they know they learned their lesson. You cannot not have Austin out there last wrestling. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So many people love Austin, and there's nobody leaving that building. I guarantee you for the beer bash, nobody leaves. I used to go to, like I was saying, house shows back in the day where he'd have a beer bash. It would go on for 45 minutes and nobody is leaving. Shane McMahon, this one time, me and my buddy, we couldn't stop laughing. He came back in the ring for like 10 or 12 stunners. Each time he'd trick him with a beer. He'd do this, do that. Nobody leaves when Austin's doing that beer bash. It's like a feel-good moment. It's an awesome thing. The stunner is over. His music is over. He's a god. He's got so much charisma. You're not ending the show with Rousey and Charlotte over Austin. No way in hell. Especially after 20 years, he's doing this big return. He just had a match. No way. Austin got to be the main event.
Yeah, and the other thing is, how many millions does she make, and how many appearances does she make, and she can't afford a babysitter?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
right.
she doesn't work a full-time schedule, and she has a husband.
Yeah, have Travis Brown. He could watch her. Yeah, I don't know. That just seemed like she's not as into WWE as she should be, because it doesn't seem like to me, from an outsider looking in, just from the perspective, like her promo is like there's no fire. She's supposed to be a baby face. Where's the baby face fire? She kind of screwed up her line one night and she sarcastically said, "Oh, why do we call it that anyway?" Like a baby face who's really trying to get over and exhibit some heart and some charisma. It just hasn't been there. Maybe she's just not into it. It just almost seems like she's bored and just going through the motions.
Yeah, she does seem like she's just been collecting a paycheck because she usually says negative stuff online. I find,
Yeah.
but it's like she just is collecting a paycheck. I think at this point,
And it's
letting her
weird.
contract run out.
And it's weird. Remember when she was home or whatever? I think it was like a year ago. She kept saying that, tell did you say, oh, wrestling is fake or something like that? She kept saying, oh, it's so fake. And she was kind of ripping it, even though she loves it. And she's a big Roddy Piper fan, obviously, and was buddies with Piper and all this other stuff. It always seems like she's kind of not into wrestling. She's just doing it for the paycheck. She's kind of just, I don't know. She just goes through the motions to me. It's kind of bad because the baddest woman on the planet when she was in Strike Force breaking arms and UFC and doing all this other stuff, it seemed like she just had a lot more fire to her. It's not quite there this time around. It just I don't know, I'm not feeling her right now. I just don't think she's doing that good of a job.
Yeah, I noticed it when she came back this time too, because when she first came in, it seemed like, oh, this is a superstar coming in and entering, and now it's just like, oh, it's Ronda Rousey, she's back.
Yeah,
Trying
she's
to
just
cool.
another one of the girls. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you never want that. You always want, like, we're like Reigns. He sticks out above everybody else. Even Charlotte sticks out above the other women. Like, she's not like one of the other girls. It's like, oh, who's going to lose to Charlotte? Like, it's something where you always think more highly of them. Her, it's almost like Rousey fell right back into the shuffle, like with Naomi and Liv and all the other girls. And then you got like Becky and Bianca and Charlotte up here, and Rousey, who you thought was going to be this big attraction, just hasn't been there. It's weird. She just kind of fell right back into the pack, and it almost seems like she doesn't care.
I love seeing all these videos coming out recently. Speaking of Charlotte, of Rick out at the bars doing his little dance.
Yep, man, it's crazy to see that he's still drinking and stuff. And he just ended his podcast with Mark Madden. Excuse me,
Yes, who
and
seems
Mark
he
Madden.
seems like an asshole, to be honest. Like Mark Madden, anyways, because like Ric Flair is still one of the all-time greats, and he really has been slinging a lot of shit on him, and it
Well,
just seems
Madden
like,
tried to take the high road.
oh yeah,
Yeah. He goes, oh, I got to do my radio show, all this other stuff, and then all of a sudden, Flair tweet, he goes, I fired your ass, blah blah blah. I was like, whoa, like, and Madden even said I was trying to take the high road. I didn't want to do this. I've been friends with you for 35 years. Flair goes, we were never friends. So like he was really, really rude to him. Madden did an interview with Conan and the K100 crew, and he was saying that Flair texted him a bunch of mean stuff and all sorts of stuff. He was saying he could have been way worse and less professional, but since it's Flair, he kept it professional. And I haven't really seen Madden go that hard on Flair. Maybe he could or should, but I didn't. I thought he was actually pretty nice to Flair, considering Flair basically goes, "Oh, I fired your ass," which is strange because he was friends with the guy for 35 years.
very very weird. I would still love to interview Ric Flair one day, as I'm sure
Yeah.
you would.
Yeah, me too. Oh, me too. The GOAT, of course.
Now you could cross Hogan off
Oh,
your
yeah.
list. By the
The
way,
other
for
GOAT, yeah.
yeah, that one's on the Hannibal TV, as well as your platforms. If you want to let the fans know where they can tune into your show, which also airs a lot of the interviews on the Hannibal TV as well.
So you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Two Man Power Trip. I post all the videos. You'll see all the links to the interviews that I'm doing, what's coming up next, shows with Kevin Sullivan, Dr. Tom, Dutch Mantel. All that stuff will be posted at Two Man Power Trip on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me on my website at tmptempire.com and Patreon too, if you're interested. Patreon.com/tmptempire.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your more detailed than expected breakdown of the matches. I'm sure the fans will appreciate that over the next few days that didn't want to sit through 8 hours of wrestling. I still say they should have cut the lesser matches and just had the real top matches one night and actually advertised the
Yep.
real main events. But
Yep.
whatever, they're
I
making
agree.
a fortune.
I know they're making a fortune doing it 2 nights, and next year's 2 nights too. They announced April 1st and 2nd again in Hollywood is 2 nights. I feel like you can cut out the New Day match. There's a bunch of stuff you could have cut out. I guess you keep the celebrities, you keep the main event matches, but just cut out the other nonsense. But oh my god, 8 hours. That's what I'm saying. I'm just so tired. Just it's exhausting. It's exhausting. 4 hours each night. It's just like, wow, that was a lot. They probably had a lot of filler they could have cut out of the show for sure.
Definitely. Well, thanks again. I'll let you close this off with whatever you want to say to the fans.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in always to the interviews here on Hannibal TV and the Two-Man Power Trip. I will see you all around. I bid you adieu. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please help me out and like this video, then click the subscribe and get